It's been a rough couple of weeks. Very emotional, very tiring. And you know what I did? I binged true crime. Hi, I'm Holliday, and this is Chloroform and Chillz. And today we're going to do a yap sesh because that's all my mental has. Since I don't think I uploaded a true crime story in like 2 weeks or whatever, so I have been binging all true crime there is because that's my safe and happy place to relax. Other than building Legos, as you can see. But other than that, I've been binging true crime, and this week I binged a podcast called Noble, and it it brings up a proper question that I think people need to answer, even though I already have my answer and how I feel is when your family member or yourself dies, right? Do you own rights to that body after you send it to the crematorium? Me personally, I think it is. Yeah, I think you do. And also, if somebody gives you an urn filled with cement powder, do you think they should be liable for where the real remains of your loved one is? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So in Georgia, because I got listen, I'm yapping. Remember that I'm yapping. In Georgia, in Noble, Georgia, there is a crematorium. Well, was a crematorium called Tri-State Crematorium, and it worked in Tennessee, Alabama. It did the tri-state. You know, 3 states all together. It got pretty pretty wicked down there. So this all starts in Noble, Georgia. A man named Ray Marsh is the owner of a crematorium, and he has been doing cremations and funerals for, if you heard anything, that's Theo. He's been doing crematory. He's been doing funerals and cremations for years. And eventually, Ray Marsh gets older and he has to pass the crematorium down to his son. And his son name is Brent Marsh. Also, Ray is married to a woman named Clara Marsh, who is a teacher, and she's taught the children in segregated and non-segregated schools in Noble, Georgia. Smart family. And also, this family is African American. One of the few families in Noble, because at this time, back then, Noble was definitely segregated. They were the one family that was cremating and doing funerals for the small town of Noble. Yeah. But this story starts in 1996 when Brent Marsh is given the crematorium from his father. It's passed down to him because unfortunately Ray Marsh ends up developing dementia. He has a stroke and he's wheelchair bound and he can't even work anymore. So it goes to his son. And at the time, Brent was in college, living his life, playing football, or was it basketball? Either one. He was playing one of them. And he had to come home and he had to take care of the family business. Brent came home. He did about 600 cremations. After that, out of nowhere, Brent stopped doing cremations. That's kind of weird, isn't it? But while he stopped doing cremations, he was still taking in bodies. This case is actually one of Georgia's most expensive investigations of all time. This story actually starts off with a man named Jeremy, who is a man that delivers propane to, businesses for a company that he works for. And one day he comes to the Marshes crematorium. He's only there by luck. Can you believe it? The guy that usually does this route says that, like, hey, I don't want to do it because I'm creeped out about the crematorium. And Jeremy's like, all right, well, I don't care. Business is business. I'll go deliver the propane. Jeremy gets there. He's searching for where he hooks up the propane so he can deliver it. And he goes in the back of the house and he sees a body laying on a slab of wood in the sun, sunbathing. If you didn't know, the process of your body decaying, after a while, you turn into wax. Yeah, you turn into wax and soap. And this body was just sunbathing, becoming mummified. He was like, what the fuck am I looking at? And he actually is like, oh my God, what is this? And he's a little stunned at first, but then Brent, the owner of the crematorium after his father, Ray Marsh, he comes out and he's like, gas man. Like, over here is where you filter the gas into the crematorium. You don't go back there, basically. And Jeremy's like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know where it is. And while he's filling up the crematorium with the propane, Brent is standing next to him the whole time. And I think Brent is probably trying to say, not trying to say, trying to see if he saw anything or wondering if he's going to ask any questions. And he doesn't. So Jeremy is like, yeah, I think something is not right at Tri State Crematorium. Something is not working. Something, it's just off. It doesn't seem right. Because why would you have a body on a slab of wood sunbathing in the back and this is a crematorium? It's kind of concerning. Jeremy ends up driving around for 30 minutes aimlessly, not going to the next stop that he's supposed to deliver propane to because he's so, I guess, traumatized or shocked that he just saw a body in the back of a house on a slab of wood. And he actually ends up going and telling his boss, like, hey, what he found. And this is a small town, so everybody knows everybody, and the owner of the place that he works for knows the sheriff of the town. The owner tells the sheriff, and the sheriff was like, okay, well, we'll go check it out. Sends 2 deputies. The deputies don't see nothing wrong. So Jeremy, a month later, has to go and deliver again because the same guy's like, hey, I don't like this place. It creeps me out. And Jeremy's like, well, I'm not really interested. But Jeremy's like, you know what? I'll go there, do what I got to do, and get out. I'm just going to like go quick, quick. Jeremy gets there. He's like, all right, let me hook up really quick. Hooking up really quick. He looks over and he sees a giant tarp laying in the grass in the backyard. And Brent comes up to him and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're digging up some holes." And Jeremy was like, in his brain, he was like, "That don't look like you're just digging holes." And Jeremy thought about it like, this might be a mass burial that he's doing right now. And then also Jeremy looks over and he sees a body laying right next to where you have to put the propane the propane, and he's like, something is not right. So he decides he's going to go over the sheriff's head. And you know what? I will say every time it always takes the right person in the right place in the right time. Because let me tell you how Jeremy has an aunt who is assistant at the FBI. He tells his aunt, and his aunt is like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like an EPA problem, honey." So the aunt makes an anonymous call to the EPA, not once but twice. The EPA actually comes out. They're like, "All right, well, why don't we search the property?" They get to the Marshes crematorium, but they're like, let's not just go immediately on the property. Come to find out, federal workers can come onto land if they have some type of reason to really look around. So they went through the neighbor's backyard and they were like, we're not really finding anything. A woman, which is Jeremy's aunt, gave a report that her dog went on a little walk on the trails and broke back a human arm. Come to find out that story isn't true. But then when the EPA guys get there, they're walking the trail and they find a human skull. And they start to walk more towards the Marshes property and they start to find more body parts, more bones, hand bones, finger bones, everything. And that is what rocks off a crazy investigation for Georgia. They actually even brought a video camera and were able to get video of the skull and other body parts laying around the back of the Marshes property, basically. You know who they call? They call the GBI. And who is the GBI? The Georgia Bureau of Investigations. And the GBI guy's like, no, I know the Marshes. They're actually family to me. We're related. This is not happening. This isn't going on. Come to find out it is going on. He looks at the video and he's like, I just turned 40 the other day. You guys are punking me, right? This is a sick joke. And they're like, no, this is serious. Like, you need to come with us because we need to go and see what's going on at Tri-State Crematorium at the Marshes residence where they are cremating bodies from the town and from Alabama and from Tennessee and from the state we're in right now. We need to go see what's going on. So they go and see what's going on and they find bodies, deceased bodies, laying everywhere in the yard in piles, some in different forms of decomposition. And then also the Marshes have different buildings on their property because they have 16 acres of land and each building is stacked up with bodies. 10, 11, 12, 20, and Brent Marsh is right next to them when they find all this out. I think he was right next to them because he found out, you know what, the jig is up. The guy from the GBI is like, Brent, what's going on here? And then he says, before we even get into that, can you identify any of these bodies? Any of them? And Brent's like, oh yeah, let me go get my notebook. Brent comes back and he starts telling who's who. So the GBI guy takes out a notepad and he's writing names down on cards. And then he realizes that Brent mixes up bodies. And he's like, do you really know who these people are? He was like, no, like, I know who these people are. Brent's like, I know who everybody is in here, okay? And he's like, but you just called Mr. Johnson over here, Mr. Johnson over there. And he was like, I was wrong then, but I know. And then the guy's like, you know what, Brent, maybe you need to give me this book. We need to start identifying who are these individuals. And he's like, no, Brent's like, no, I'm gonna need this for later. The GBI guy was like, no, I don't think you're gonna ever need this book again. And that is what rocks off the biggest investigation in Georgia. And even the governor gets involved and declares a state of emergency because they are finding bodies after bodies after bodies. In total, they find about 339 bodies. The 16-acre land at the marshes, they find 339 bodies that have not been cremated. And some of these bodies are from out of state. Some of these bodies are from Alabama. Some of these bodies are from Tennessee. Funeral homes have been sending Brent bodies to cremate, and he hasn't been cremating them. You know what he's been doing? He's been buying urns and putting cement powder inside of these urns. And I think that is crazy. They were so concerned about what was going on. They were like trying to make excuses for Brent. They was like, oh, maybe they didn't have the money to get the furnace fixed. Funeral director came in and was like, no, this hasn't been used in a very long time. It's holes in the chimney. There's bricks missing from the oven. He was like, this hasn't been used in a really long time. I don't know when it's not been used. It looks like it still works. It just has not been fixed. And come to find out, for a while, actually, they're supposed to be inspected every year. So you're telling me they didn't come and inspect the tri-state crematorium this whole time? Listen, I'm shocked because we did a story about the mortician and he was sick. He was doing it for profit. Brent wasn't doing it for profit. Come to find out, Brent just couldn't handle all the bodies that were coming to him and he was just accepting them. And he was just trying to carry on his family's legacy. But at the same time, Brent didn't want to do the job. He was like, I can't give any words of why this happened or why I've done this. I'm deeply sorry. And I'm here to help in any way I can. That's not the worst part. In these warehouses on the property or containers or storage places or buildings that they have not mausoleums, but they have cases inside these buildings, and these cases are for when they go on the ground. When a family wants to protect the coffin of a loved one, they put like a cement container down, and then they put the casket down, and they put a cement slab over top of it. Yeah, Brent had like 3 of those, and he was stacking bodies in those too. And they said the smell in these containers was so bad. You couldn't go to your car and sit in your car. You had to strip your clothes off and then get in your car. And a lot of people were devastated because this hit the news and it went crazy. And people were like, I need to check my loved ones' death certificate to see if they went to Tri-State. And a lot of people found out that they sent their loved one's body to Tri-State crematorium, and guess what, they weren't cremating them. And it just got it was so bad. It was so bad. People were outraged and wanted Brent to burn in hell. But I think there was something else going on here that nobody really decided to really look into when it came to Brent's mental health and what was really going on. Because what would make you stop doing a job? Because it's reported that he at least cremated 600 bodies before this started in 1996, of when he stopped cremating bodies, right? What happened? Some people believe he got backed up. Some people believe he didn't really want to do it. And his mom asked him to do it. I don't know. It was horrible. Can't assume Brent does get arrested for this. His mother gets arrested for this. His sister, also, I don't think I named his sister. I think his sister gets arrested, and his wife, and his father, who was in a wheelchair with dementia, doing mass autopsies of the bodies, they realized that some of these bodies are from 1996, and that is the year that Ray Marsh gave over the crematorium to his son Brent. So he's released. The mother is released because they can't prove that she knew what her son was doing, even though it's in the backyard of her house. It's later said that she says, "Well, that's my husband's business." Sister and the wife is released as well. Brent is the only one that is taking full blame of what's going on. He was charged with 102 count of fraud. If you don't know, they were taking in money to cremate these bodies, right? Some got to keep the business going on. But when you take money and you don't do a job, it's fraud. So he was charged with 102 counts of fraud, 102 count of desecration of remains, 102 counts of abuse of a corpse. And how many years do you think he got after this? He got 12 years, did his 12, and then was on probation for 63 years. And still to this day is fighting to get off of probation. Well, his lawyer is for him. He's not really worried about it. They say that in prison, Brent was a model prisoner. He didn't really cause any problems. They believe he just got backed up and he just didn't handle the cremations well or reach out for help from another crematorium. The lawsuits that came in were ridiculous too. It was lawsuit after lawsuit, and they had settled in court how much they could pay out, how much could they give the families, because there was so much damage. 339 bodies weren't cremated to help people identify if the cremains that they had were real cremains or not cement powder, or if the cremains were their loved ones, because some people would get remains and there would be a pair of dentures inside of them, and they'd be like, "Yeah, my loved one didn't wear dentures." what, 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 what do you mean? Hold on. I'm just like, oh my god. So that still poses the question of like, what is right, what is wrong? Because his lawyer wanted to go to trial and prove like, you don't really have rights to a body after you give it to the crematorium. This is just a shell of a person, is not a person. I would disagree. I believe we should respect the dead, but he's just doing his job as a defense attorney, and he was ready to go down in trial. But Brent was like, "No, I don't want to cause my family any pain. I would like to try to get a plea deal," and they did. They got him 12 years in prison, 63 years, and during that time, Brent got a theology degree and became a barber, and now he's a pastor for the family church. Would you look at that? I can't believe that. I believe, if you repent, I believe in all that stuff. You repent, if God forgives you, whatever. But we talking about how you desecrated, let's not say, we're talking about how you abused 339 bodies. And people were so traumatized by this. At least 170 of them left the remains of possible loved ones at the investigation site. And at least 270 individuals were not identified. So they made a mass grave and they put a plaque there, and they made a mausoleum to put all the 170 urns that weren't claimed anymore after family members brought them in. And that was it. That was it. I just can't believe it, because like, what do you mean you stopped cremating the bodies? Why didn't you ask for help? I also, like, while listening to this, I found out that there was an uncle supposedly helping the family with the crematory or the cremations and everything when Ray was no longer available to help, like, not work anymore because he was sick, he had dementia. They ended up giving it to the son and not the uncle that's been helping out the father for years. So guess what the uncle did? He quit, and it became a one-man show, and Brent could just not handle the show. But he was taking in bodies, I think, to appease his mother or to appease his family. Not what he wanted to do. This is a podcast called Noble. You have to listen to it. I was speechless, because what do you mean 339 bodies? What do you mean you got bodies outside in different forms of decomposition? Do you know how hot Georgia is? I'm surprised. Did it not smell? And then on the grounds, what he did was he was doing mass burials, by the way, too. Some bodies were found in piles of trash. Can you believe you go to work one day and you just find a body on the side of the road, or in the front of the building, in the back of the building, in the basement? I am so speechless, because what do you mean? What do you mean you didn't burn the bodies? You had the equipment. What do you mean you didn't ask for help? What do you mean it became too much? So the decision you made was to just not cremate and give people urns of cement dust, cement powder, or you were not giving people their families' right remains? What do you mean? And also, let me tell you this. They think it's more than 339 bodies, because the governor asked for federal funding and they declined to help him. So everything just came to a halt. They said that that's all they found, but I think it's more bodies on the Marsh property, and nobody's going to go find them. At the end of all this, Brent did his time. They tore down the crematorium, and the Marsh family is just living their life how they can. With Brent as the preacher of their family church. Another Yap says, here and going. Please stay safe. If you send a loved one to be cremated, make sure you stand and watch it. I know that can be traumatizing, but as we can see, these funeral homes and crematories aren't really doing good by people's bodies. Let's try to be active. Let's try to be there, y'all. Because that that's wild. So please stay safe. Keep your loved ones remain safe. Keep the cremains safe. And I'll see you in the next one. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.